You know what's genuinely painful to think about? There are people sitting right now with $6,000 in a savings account earning 0.01% interest, feeling proud of themselves, completely unaware that if they had just pointed that same $6,000 at the market 5 years ago and kept adding to it every single week without touching it, without timing it, without doing anything clever, they'd be looking at a number that would make them want to go back in time and shake their younger self by the shoulders. And I spend a probably unhealthy amount of time running these kinds of numbers, thinking about what consistent investing actually looks like in the real world. Not the highlight reel version where someone picks the right stock at the right time, but the boring, unglamorous, put your $100 in every Friday version that most people completely underestimate. If you want to understand what real wealth building looks like when it's stripped of all the noise and the hot takes and the crypto Twitter influencers, make sure you're subscribed and hit that thumbs up if this video ends up making you feel something, because I promise you it will. Today, we're going to walk through exactly what happens when someone invests $100 every single week for 60 months. That's 5 years. That's 260 individual investments. That's $26,000 of your actual money going into the market. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why the people who do this quietly, consistently, without fanfare, end up beating the people who are constantly chasing the next big thing. Every single time. Let's start with the number that matters first, because I want you to hold it in your head before we go any further. $100 a week. That's $14.28 a day. It's less than most people spend on lunch and coffee combined, without even thinking about it. And yet the majority of people hear $100 a week into investments and immediately tell themselves some version of, "I can't afford that right now." Meanwhile, they're subscribed to 4 streaming services they use twice a month, have a gym membership they haven't touched since January, and somehow managed to spend $340 last month on things they genuinely cannot account for. I'm not judging. I've been there, but the math doesn't care about our feelings, and the math on $100 a week is staggering. Here's what month 1 through month 12 actually looks like, because this is the part where most people quit before they even start. In the beginning, this feels like throwing coins into a very large ocean. You put in your $100 week 1, the market goes up slightly, maybe down slightly, your portfolio shows $102 or maybe $97, and nothing about that feels exciting. By the end of month 3, you've put in $1,300, and your account might show $1,340 or $1,280, depending on what the market decided to do that particular quarter. You are not rich. You do not feel rich. You feel like someone who has $1,300 in a brokerage account that fluctuates enough to make you mildly anxious every time you check it. And here's the trap that catches almost everyone in year 1. They check it too often. They see a red week, then 2 red weeks, then they start reading articles about why the market is about to crash, and then that $100 that was supposed to go in on Friday somehow doesn't make it. And then 1 missed week becomes 2, and 2 becomes a month, and that's where the returns get quietly murdered before they ever had a chance to live. Assuming you stay the course, which is the entire game here, by the end of month 12, you've contributed $5,200 of your own money. With a historically average market return of around 7% annually, your account is sitting somewhere around $5,450 to $5,600. That extra $250 to $400 is not going to change your life. I know that. You know that. But here's what that number actually represents. It represents the compounding engine warming up. It's not the output that matters yet. It's the fact that every single dollar you contributed is now a dollar that works for you while you sleep, while you're at the grocery store, while you're complaining about your commute. That money doesn't clock out. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't ask for a raise. It just sits there, quietly compounding, waiting for time to do what time does. Now let's get to the part that actually hurts to miss, year 2 and year 3. This is where the numbers start developing a pulse. By month 24, you've put in $10,400 of your own money. With that same average market return, your account is now somewhere in the range of $11,200 to $11,600. You've essentially earned a free month of contributions just by staying in. But more importantly, something psychological starts to shift around this time. Your weekly contribution of $100 starts to feel less like a sacrifice and more like a habit. It stops being a decision you make every Friday and starts being a thing that just happens, like paying your rent or your phone bill. That automation of behavior is, I'd argue, more valuable than any stock pick you could ever make, because consistency is the only edge that actually compounds the same way money does. By month 36, you're 3 years in. You've contributed $15,600. Your account, if the market cooperated with historical averages, is sitting somewhere around $17,500 to $18,000. That's a gap of nearly $2,400 that didn't come from your paycheck. It came from time and from not panicking in March of whatever year the market decided to have a bad quarter. And there will always be a bad quarter. There will always be a headline that makes it feel like the sky is falling. There will always be someone on YouTube telling you to pull everything out and wait for a better entry point. The people who built wealth ignored that person every single time. Here's something that most people genuinely don't appreciate about how compounding works, and it's the kind of thing that seems obvious once you hear it, but that almost nobody actually feels in their gut until they see the numbers. In your first year, your returns are mostly coming from your contributions. You put in $5,200, the market adds maybe $400. Your returns are roughly 7% of a relatively small base. But by year 4, something has fundamentally changed. You now have a meaningful base of invested capital that is itself generating returns. You're putting in $100 a week and getting returns not just on that $100, but on the accumulated $20,000+ that's already in the account. The machine is eating its own output and growing faster because of it. This is the concept that's impossible to fully explain, and that only really hits you when you watch it happen in your own account, which is exactly why I want you to stay in long enough to see it. By month 48, 4 years in, you've contributed $20,800 of your own money. Your account at 7% average annual returns is sitting somewhere in the range of $24,000 to $25,000. You've made over $4,000 in returns on top of what you put in. But look at that number differently for a second. In your first year, you earned roughly $400 in market returns. In year 4 alone, you're earning somewhere around $1,600 to $1,800 in market returns, even before your new contributions add anything. Your annual return in year 4 is 4 times what it was in year 1, and you didn't do anything differently. You didn't get smarter, you didn't work harder, you just stayed. And then we get to the final stretch, month 49 through month 60. This is the payoff chapter, the one that makes everything before it worth it. By month 60, you've contributed exactly $26,000 of your money, real money, earned money, money that could have been spent on trips, on upgrades, on things that would have given you momentary satisfaction and left no lasting trace. Instead, that $26,000 invested weekly with average market returns has grown to somewhere in the range of $31,500 to $33,000. You've made between $5,500 and $7,000 on top of what you put in. That's roughly a 25 to 27% total return over the life of the investment.
which sounds okay until you realize that the S&P 500's actual 5-year returns over most historical periods significantly outpace that 7% average assumption, meaning the real number is likely better, and more importantly, you still have decades ahead of you for this money to keep compounding. But here's the thing that nobody talks about when they run these numbers, because it's harder to quantify than a portfolio balance. The person who did this for 5 years is fundamentally different from the person who didn't. They have proof in the form of a brokerage account that they can build something slowly. They've survived a few market pullbacks without bailing. They've automated a behavior that most people treat as optional. And they've built a relationship with investing that is rooted in reality rather than in hype or fear, which are the only two emotional states most retail investors ever operate from. That psychological transformation is worth more than the $7,000 in returns, because the person who spent 5 years doing this isn't going to panic sell the next time the market drops 20%. They've already lived through market drops.
Know what they feel like. They know what comes after. So here is the actual takeaway. Not the number, not the compound interest formula, not the specific return percentages. The takeaway is that $100 a week for 60 months is not a get-rich-quick strategy. It's not going to make you a millionaire by Tuesday. It's something far more valuable than that. It's proof of concept for the most powerful wealth-building mechanism available to ordinary people, which is time in the market, not timing the market. The people who understand this really understand it in a felt sense rather than just an intellectual one, are the people who end up fine, not because they were smarter, not because they earned more, because they started, they stayed, and they let time do the rest. Your future self is either going to thank you for this or wish you'd watched this video 5 years earlier. The choice, as always, is entirely yours.